Hi, my name is Aaron, this is my show Reeducation, and today we're going to talk a little bit about community policing. So with all that being said, let's get into it. So in my last video, I talked a little bit about how our organization is doing a lot of different things throughout the city in regards to direct action and mutual aid. And I got a really good response, and a lot of people wanted to know a little bit more about some of the work that we've been doing, specifically in regards to community policing. I kind of offhand mentioned that we're trying to organize a group that essentially eliminates the need for police. And we've actually done quite a good job at doing that. Recently, we were able to get a few of our comrades together who are really passionate and really interested in finding a way to eliminate crime throughout the city and help out a lot of the people that are basically forced to do crime. And after a little bit of research, it turns out that we were able to find an organization that was doing something very similar that was already being funded by the government. Now we thought to ourselves, this is really interesting. There's this organization that's out there doing sort of what we want to do, but right now it's kind of led by a bunch of liberals and by bureaucrats that don't really know how to accomplish what they want to do in the first place and might not necessarily have the best of intentions. So we thought to ourselves, wonder how we can co-opt this thing and turn it into our own. It's kind of a funny story because a lot of the time liberal organizations will come into our anarchist or communist organizations and they will find ways to co-opt what we're doing and turn it into something that it wasn't. And I figured, maybe that might be something that we need to consider doing here. Now, before I jump into exactly what it is the street team does and how exactly they go about eliminating crime, let's talk just briefly on the reasons why people commit crime. So to a lot of my viewers out there, you'll probably already know this story, but I'm just going to reiterate it again for anybody that hasn't actually heard this argument before. And basically, the idea goes something like this. People don't just commit crimes for no reason, at least not usually. More often than not, people commit crimes because they're kind of forced into a position where they have no other choice but to do so. Somebody that's very poor, has a family of 5, and unable to provide food might be compelled by their hunger and the hunger of their family to steal that food. Other people that are in dire circumstances or have had the entire world collapse on top of them and they feel like they're basically hopeless might turn to drugs. And those drugs might lead them down a path where they commit crimes to support that drug habit. The same thing, too, can be said about people that maybe had a serious injury and were prescribed certain drugs from the doctors, and eventually they ran out of funding to be able to buy those drugs if they didn't have pharmacare or whatever, and they're left to go to the streets to buy those drugs there. And again, it results in possible crime happening and that sort of thing. Also, people that are denied housing or food or medical supplies or all of these different things that we consider to be human rights, when people are denied those things, they'll have to find different ways of getting them. And if they have no opportunity to get a job or they're unemployable, according to the capitalists, then they're going to have to survive somehow. That's usually where crime comes in. Now, obviously, there is a very small percentage of people that are going to do rapes or murders or something terrible like that. And they're going to do it for reasons that have absolutely nothing to do with their material circumstances. But the vast majority of crime that happens because people are in dire circumstances. And they need to do those sorts of things to survive. So then the question basically boils down to, how would you as anarchists fight crime? And I would answer by saying we don't necessarily have to fight crime if we work to prevent it from happening in the first place. So, if people are able to be provided with food, clothing, shelter, medical care, resources, and all of the things that they might need to actually survive and live happy, healthy lives, they're going to be far less likely to commit crime and far more likely to enter back into society and be contributing members. So that's exactly what we decided to work on. Now, getting back to the liberal organization, we basically thought that it would be a good idea for us to send out a street team, a team of people that are well-trained and well-qualified to deal with a lot of different problems that individuals might have while they're out on the street. So we found some volunteers that have emergency medical training and de-escalation tactics training. They learned how to use naloxone. They also know how to do CPR and a bunch of other things that are necessary for them to have to deal with whatever situation might arise out on the street. And then they went out and started doing a circuit throughout some of the main parts of the city to find people that were in dire need of certain things and giving it to them. We used some of the resources with the community fridge network to be able to provide people with food, and we also came up with extensive lists of different organizations and groups within the city that would be able to help people with certain things. And some of these volunteers were able to work as advocates for a lot of these individuals who may be homeless or in difficult circumstances to be able to find adequate resources through different government services and so forth, to be able to help them out of their situation and basically into a much better one. And we've had an incredible amount of success in only a couple of weeks' time. In that time, this small group, and I mean small, it's only about 4 or 5 individuals, was able to permanently house about 6 homeless people. Not only that, they were able to temporarily house dozens more, while also providing food and adequate resources to shelter and to medical care and other things like that, all by basically going out there and finding individuals that were in need and helping them. Direct action. It gets the goods. Now, like I was saying earlier, there was also another group already out there that was doing something very similar. They were going around and giving people the things that they need and basically preventing crimes from happening, but they were also working with local businesses and banks and so forth, basically being called in instead of the police to deal with confrontations and people that, might be trying to sleep inside of a hallway because they needed a place to get warm. So already the government had given this group a certain amount of funding and allowed them the authority to go around and deal with these circumstances instead of having to bring in the police or bring in any other group to do it instead. So we've seen that as an obvious opportunity to find out if preventing crime before it happens in an anarchistic way would be a good way to solve that problem. And like I said, staggering amounts of success. It's been working out unbelievably well. And inside of the group itself, we've been working incredibly hard to radicalize the individuals there, unionize them, and make sure that any hierarchical status that people had within that group in the first place would be done in a democratic way. Luckily, we were able to get in on the ground floor of this entire operation, so we were easily able to start working immediately to make sure that things were ran essentially like a worker cooperative. Now, obviously, there are a lot of things that we have to think about when we're doing this sort of thing, and there are a ton of things that can actually go wrong. For instance, the entire organization might get all of its funding cut, and then all of a sudden we're left with a bunch of people who want to do the work but are unable to do it because they don't have any of the resources to actually get it done. That's a very big possibility. All it takes is the changing of some individuals in the government to basically cut all of that funding and eliminate the program entirely. Luckily, since we're working together to do this in an anarchistic way, even if that is to happen, those volunteers would still be able to go out on the streets and do the work that they do, and we would find ways to make sure that that's done. But it's still something that we have to think about. And when it comes to you at home starting something like this, you might not have that exact same perfect situation fall entirely into your lap. You might have to do a lot of this from scratch. You might have to just jump off and start doing it without having any funding whatsoever. But I definitely suggest that you go out there and you try to find ways that you can get it. There are a lot of different government grants, specifically in Canada, that you can get to revitalize city infrastructure and a bunch of other jargon like that. And if you're able to use one of those grants to sneak in some anarchistic ideas and be able to have the government fund you to do it, well, that's even better. You just have to make sure that you stay ideologically pure and don't get corrupted by that evil, dirty government money. No, it's hilarious, because what we end up doing is using the master's tools to destroy the master's house. And that's basically the whole motto that I had when coming up with this YouTube channel. And it's basically the way that we've been working on the ground for a lot of different things. If we're able to start organizations ourselves, damn right, we're going to do that. If we're able to find organizations that are in existence and make them better, damn right, we're going to do that too. And if the government or the bourgeois start organizations that are doing similar things to what we're doing, we'll find a way to co-opt that motherfucker and get in there and actually do it properly and have them pay for it. Because that's much better and so much easier than having to do those sorts of things all on our own. It's awesome. It's honestly great. I have no idea how much of this is actually going to go to air. Probably not a whole lot, because I don't want to get us fucked over and have them find out our sneaky little plan. Oh, I can't even say any of that. Like, I'm having a fun time with this video, and I'm like, can this go to air? I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, that was basically how we went about doing it. We got a bunch of volunteers that were really interested in getting it done. We got them training. We got them all prepared to be able to handle a lot of dangerous, sticky situations. And we worked together to find a lot of resources within the city that we would be able to direct people towards and help them out with. They also work as advocates to be able to get individuals certain government subsidies and put them into permanent housing or temporary housing and this, that, and the other thing. And they're able to do it all democratically and through direct action. And I think that that's fantastic. So if that's something that you at home want to do, if it's something that you want to start, definitely take some of these ideas that I've given out to you and run with them, see if they work out for you. And if you have any questions, comments, or whatever, leave them in the comment section down below. You can also direct message me on Twitter at Professor Darwin. I don't always answer every single message, but I try to answer as many as I can. And if you have any specific questions about this sort of thing, just direct message me something like, hey, I have a question about community policing, and I'll jump right in there and I'll try to answer your question as fast as I possibly can. So thank you very much for watching. I hope that was informative. If you do get a chance, check out all the links in the downstairs in the basement. Donate to the Direct Action Fund if you want to help us out to continue to create projects like this. Donate to my Patreon if you like these videos. And with all that being said, keep evolving.